Su Kai currently has 4 projects, across 4 distinct genres, waiting to air. Each backed by a different platform. Tencent Video, iQIYI, Youku, and Mango TV. In today's landscape, that alignment is not accidental. It reflects positioning. This is not about expansion in quantity. It is about recalibration through diversification. And that is what makes his current slate distinct among his post-95 peers. To understand why this configuration stands out, we need to examine the forces driving it. The long-form drama sector is entering a more selective stage. Production decisions are tighter. Investment logic is more controlled. Episode structures are increasingly condensed. In this environment, sustainability becomes central. For actors, diversification is no longer aesthetic preference. It is structural necessity. Su Kai has articulated this simply. As an actor, I naturally hope to challenge myself with different genres and roles. And in another interview he shared, taking more diverse challenges is definitely the right choice. These statements align with a broader industry logic. Genre mobility expands opportunity. Platform distribution increases flexibility. Versatility strengthens long-term positioning. Diversification, therefore, is not random experimentation. It is strategic calibration within a transforming system. The second factor is timing. Su Kai signed a 10-year contract with Huanyu Entertainment in August 2016. That cycle approaches its endpoint in 2026. In the Chinese entertainment industry, contract milestones often coincide with career recalibration. Since his debut in Untouchable Lovers and breakout recognition through Story of Yanxi Palace, Su Kai has led 16 dramas across costume and modern settings alike. A significant portion of these projects operated within the framework of idol-driven romantic narratives. That focus built recognition. It solidified screen presence. It cultivated audience familiarity. But it also shaped perception, placing him primarily within emotionally centered storytelling structures. As a contract cycle approaches transition, diversification serves an additional function. It broadens partnerships. It expands narrative territory beyond romance-centered frameworks. It strengthens individual positioning beyond a single studio ecosystem. There has been no official confirmation regarding renewal. But the timing of expanded genre and platform presence is structurally significant. Or, as Su Kai once said, "For me, it's all about meeting the right character at the right time." Strategic timing and artistic choice are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes, they align. To see how this recalibration unfolds in practice, we now examine the 4 projects in the order they were filmed. Fire Investigator is a high-IQ suspense thriller directed by Xing Jianjun, known for crime and psychological dramas such as Under the Skin. The series centers on arson investigation, not just firefighting, but forensic reconstruction. Investigators analyze burn patterns, trace ignition logic, and reconstruct motive from physical evidence left behind. It is a procedural world built on deduction. Stepping into the role of Yutong, Su Kai enters his first true realistic drama. Especially Fire Investigator, it's truly the first realistic drama I've taken on. Filming it was anything but easy. Yutong is not an expressive character. He operates through calculation. Su Kai intentionally reduced styling, almost no makeup, and adopted a restrained, controlled presence. He once reflected, "In moments like that, keeping silent is crucial. You can't talk too much. You can't have too many small expressions." The character's appeal lies in intellect, what contemporary discourse calls sapiosexuality. Intelligence becomes charisma. To build credibility, Su Kai memorized dense professional terminology. Combustion theory, environmental variables, astronomical calculations related to fire patterns. He admitted he would study overnight, only to forget much of it the next day after filming. But on camera, those lines had to sound precise. Once internalized, those formulas stopped being dry data. They became tools used to uncover truth. Filmed in Haikou during peak summer, Su Kai performed in heavy firefighting suits under simulated fire conditions. High heat, many toxic elements, soot and smoke, every entry into a fire scene is a test. Even with professional-grade masks, he often found himself rinsing soot out of his nose at the end of each shoot day. The drama pushes Su Kai to his major limits, both physically and mentally. This matters because Fire Investigator shifts him toward occupational realism, where professional function defines the character more than personality. It marks a move into crime suspense, a move toward procedural authenticity, and a move away from image-driven modern archetypes. Diversification here is not decorative. It is foundational. Following Fire Investigator, Su Kai moves further into realistic crime territory with Within 800 Meters, a 20-episode project under Tencent's X Theater label. A production line known for shorter, quality-driven dramas. The series is directed by Chiu Zhongwei, marking Su Kai's second collaboration with him after Falling Into Your Smile. But unlike their previous modern idol drama, this project shifts sharply in tone. Set in a small town in the 1990s, the story centers on a father-son conflict, where a single unintended mistake triggers long-term consequences. Su Kai plays Chen, a gifted young man with an advanced business mind for his time, yet a character caught between personal ambition, moral consequence, and generational tension. He once said, "I want to try playing a character who keeps resisting fate, even when he knows it's already been decided." Chen is not framed as a conventional, good protagonist. He exists in moral ambiguity. And that ambiguity is central to the project's positioning. To build the character, Su Kai deliberately moved away from fixed performance patterns. He focused on understanding the internal logic behind Chen Hui's choices, studying psychological materials and real criminal cases to ground the role in behavioral realism. Visually, he also made a conscious adjustment. Chen appears with darker skin, short hair, and a deliberately unpolished presence. Su Kai has stated that he does not prioritize maintaining a good-looking image, as long as the appearance serves the character. This willingness to step away from aesthetic safety marks a visible shift, both literally and strategically. The project also places him alongside veteran actors such as Ding Yongdai, Tu Songyan, and Youku. Su Kai has spoken about learning from performers of different generations, noting that their natural, restrained acting often comes directly from lived experience, compared to Fire Investigator, which emphasizes professional expertise and occupational realism. Within 800 Meters shifts the focus toward moral conflict and psychological complexity. This is diversification at another level. Not only genre expansion, but character recalibration. From heroic function to flawed humanity. From external competence to internal contradiction. And within the broader context of contract timing and industry adjustment. This role expands his positioning beyond historical fantasy archetypes into socially grounded, realism-oriented storytelling. It strengthens cross-platform credibility. It broadens director collaboration. And it reduces reliance on a single established image. Within 800 Meters, therefore, is not simply another crime drama. It is a strategic deepening of range. A Cup of Love is a 30-episode historical drama adapted from the novel Chen by iQIYI. Filmed from April to July, the series completed post-production quickly and received its broadcast license in December. It also marks Su Kai's return to iQIYI, his first collaboration with the platform since Lost in the Kunlun Mountains in 2022. After 2 consecutive realistic crime projects, this appears, on the surface, to be a return to familiar territory, costume drama. But the character he chooses is not a repetition of earlier archetypes. In A Cup of Love, Su Kai plays Shenrun, a high-ranking court official defined less by martial force and more by restraint, calculation, and political awareness. Shenrun is not a youthful warrior. He is a statesman shaped by hierarchy and consequence. Su Kai described his entry point into the role as a psychological excavation. What has he gone through? What shaped his current personality? Rather than approaching the character through external heroism, he focused on internal construction, building Shenrun's past, motivations, and unspoken emotional logic. He has shared that beyond memorizing lines, he writes additional character notes, filling in what the script leaves unsaid. Before filming, he aligns closely with the director and screenwriters to ensure a unified interpretation. Only after that structure is clear, does he allow flexibility in performance. This method shifts the emphasis from spectacle to control. Within his broader trajectory, A Cup of Love does not attempt to reinvent the costume genre for Su Kai. Instead, it refines it. Shenrun is not driven by fantasy heroism or romantic impulse. He operates within hierarchy, politics, and restraint. The performance leans on control, measured dialogue, deliberate reaction, internal calculation. It suggests a different kind of presence inside historical storytelling. And immediately after this restrained court official comes something structurally different. Because as costume mystery becomes increasingly prominent across platforms from late 2024 into 2025, Su Kai steps into another historical framework. This time through suspense. Strange Tales of Tiandu is a historical mystery series, adapted from the web novel Tang and Wu Ming by Yuan Ning. Produced by Mango TV and Leafuo Pictures. The project filmed from October 2025 to February 2026. Set in Tiandu City, the narrative unfolds through a sequence of bizarre cases. It follows an investigative structure, layered clues, shifting suspicions, and gradual revelation. The series is led by Chief Director Qing Jichao, alongside Ma Huagan and Tian Xiaoba. A team associated with large-scale historical production and structured storytelling. At the center of the story is Shi Wu Ming, played by Su Kai. Established from a young age as a prodigy in solving cases, Shi Wu Ming is known for extracting truth from overlooked details. He is invited into Tiandu City as a problem solver, someone whose reputation precedes him. Unlike romantic heroes or fantasy warriors, Shi Wu Ming operates through deduction. He observes before he speaks. He calculates before he acts. His role within the investigative group is functional and stabilizing, anchoring conflicting viewpoints, reconstructing fragmented evidence, and restoring legal order. But the character is not purely academic. Prior to joining the production, Su Kai noted that he focused on rebuilding physical strength in preparation for the role. The script required a significant number of action sequences, integrating movement and combat into the investigative framework. This suggests a hybrid construction. Analytical intelligence at the core. Physical execution in the field. Shi Wu Ming is therefore not defined by emotional turbulence or moral collapse. He is defined by clarity. A character who moves through chaos with structured reasoning. A presence that restores order rather than questions it. Filming concluded in February 2026, with official materials positioning the series as a multi-case historical suspense narrative. In this project, Su Kai steps into another variation of genre logic. Not modern realism. Not political court drama. But procedural mystery, within a historical frame. Now, Placing the 4 projects side by side, a clearer pattern emerges. Fire Investigator moves into occupational realism. Within 800 meters explores psychological fracture and moral consequence. A Cup of Love reframes historical drama through political restraint. Strange Tales of Tiandu enters the structure of investigative mystery. Different genres, different character logics, different narrative pressures. Not expansion for volume, but an expansion of range. Characters defined less by romantic centrality, and more by responsibility, ambiguity, and consequence. Su Kai addressed this shift directly in a recent interview with Vision magazine, March 2026. He noted that an actor's development is closely tied to the era they work in, as well as to their own stage of life. In recent years, he says, he has deliberately sought projects rooted in realism and roles with greater psychological complexity. At the same time, he recognizes that audiences are evolving as well, increasingly curious to see different dimensions from the actors they follow. Perhaps that is where the real transition lies. Not simply in the projects themselves, but in the expectations surrounding them. So the question becomes, will 2026 mark another breakthrough? Not necessarily in fame. That moment already came once. But in capacity. In the depth of complexity he can sustain on screen. And in how these choices may reshape the next phase of his career.